If you actually want to become an elite shooter who can shoot at a high percentage in games, watch this video. It may change the way you think about shooting. So it's important to realize that when we look at skill acquisition science and how players actually learn, there are a lot of myths about shooting. For example, despite people thinking that there is a textbook perfect form, there is no perfect form. There's an acceptable range that we want to be inside, but so many players worry about having that perfect form and it really hurts them. Another myth is that it's just about reps and getting up as many shots as you possibly can, when in reality, a lot of players get up a ton of low quality reps. And yeah, it may help a little bit, but it's not really preparing them for the game. And then the third myth that I'll mention, and this is going to be a big focus in this video, is that players have to shoot the same way every single time. Now, I want to dive into this one a little bit because you may be thinking, well, shouldn't I be shooting with consistency? Like, I want to shoot the same shot every single time. That means it's going to be consistently going in. But let me explain this to you really quickly. When you look at the science, we have things called attractors and fluctuators. Attractors are the things that we really want to stay consistent. Fluctuators are the things that can change, and as long as the attractors are good, we're still going to make the shot or succeed. Now, as you're thinking about it, you're probably like, all right, well, there are a ton of attractors that we have to think about. We got to keep everything the same. The joint angle of the elbow and how we jump and the timing of everything. You'd actually be surprised. Research shows that good shooters are not good shooters because they shoot the same way every time, but instead because they're able to change up all these different fluctuators and still keep just a few things very stable, which is really just the final point of the release. So obviously you want to shoot it straight every time. Energy transfer and fluidity, right? So if you start getting hitchy with it, you're probably gonna miss. And then is the visual part, right? So having your eyes on the rim early, which we'll talk about. Other than that, the best shooters are able to adjust all of these different things in their shot and still keep those consistent to make shots. So in this video, I'm going to show you a bunch of different qualities that you need to be working on if you're still a beginner or you have a really poor shooting form that is just completely flawed. This video probably doesn't apply to you just yet because you want to fix that or stabilize that movement pattern a little bit first. But you don't have to be an absolute expert to start working on these things. In fact, we want to start working on these as early in the process as possible. We want you to become an adaptable shooter. And again, if you're at the point where you're already a decent shooter, the two important parts of this video are, one, how these players are able to find consistency in chaos. So I want you guys to understand how chaotic the game can be and why you're getting thousands of basic spot shots with no movement probably are not going to apply as well as you think. But then two, how they actually adjust their technique sometimes, how consistent they're able to be in craziness, but also when they're not able to be, how they're still able to make shots when they have to adjust their technique. Let's get into it and I'll show you some of the most important things you need to be developing as a shooter. So the first quality here is release height flexibility. If you watch the best shooters in the world or even just a good shooter, they're able to adjust the height at which they release the ball. Sometimes it's all the way up here, right? Like above their head. Sometimes they shoot with a little bit lower of a release. They're not just doing it just to do it. Most times they're doing it to control power. So the deeper the shot, usually players need to shoot with a little bit lower of a release, speed up the ball a little bit more, and then really push through that release. If players are shooting from a bit closer, and this is all three-pointers, so we're not showing mid-range here, where you would really be able to see that. But the closer that you shoot, usually you don't need as much power, so you end up shooting it from higher to control the shot and minimize the room for error. Same thing with momentum. If you have a ton of forward momentum, as you can see here, you typically tend to shoot it a bit higher, and we have to be able to make those shots, versus if our momentum is going backwards, then we're probably going to release a little bit lower. So long story short here, you should not be releasing the ball with the same timing and at the same height every single shot. You need to be practicing releasing it earlier, later, higher, lower, depending on how much momentum you have, where the defender is, as well as how far you are from the basket. Second quality here is 4D momentum, or four-dimensional momentum. Sometimes, as you can see here, you're gonna have to drift a bit on your shot, and to do so in 4 different directions, and a combination of these, so forward, back, left, and right. It's pointed the wrong way, but you get the idea. Again, sometimes this is escaping a defender, so you have to keep that momentum going a bit. If you jump straight up and down, they're going to catch up on that closeout. Other times though, this actually may be more comfortable to drift. At times, especially for really dynamic players, if they have to really stop themselves sharp in the ground and raise up, that spends a lot of energy, right? Versus just kind of drifting off of the ground like a plane taking off, and if you're able to control that momentum and still knock it down, it actually helps build some fluidity into your shot. Third is rhythm. And this is an extremely important one. Rhythm to me is one of the most valuable qualities that you can possess as a shooter. And really what rhythmic is ensuring that everything is working together. Everything is timed up well. So as you can see on this, as you are catching the ball, you're quickly timing up everything even before you catch the ball so that you can go down and up super fluidly and transfer energy well through that shot. So the best shooters here are able to create very rhythmic shots, right? Even if the pass is a little bit crazy, they're able to catch it right as their feet hit the ground, pop up into the air quick. It just looks nice, it looks fluid. So even when the pass is a little bit slower than you think and you have to adjust, or you're moving in different directions, you need to work on creating rhythm, even in chaotic situations, right? It shouldn't just be catch, shoot, feel good shots every time where you're able to create rhythm. But other times, it's impossible for you to create that standard rhythm. Maybe you pump fake and then have to shoot off of that. You hesitate for a little bit, so you're stuck kind of at the bottom of your jump, and you gotta make that work. So on the other hand, you should be working on out of rhythm shots and ways to create rhythm in these out of rhythm situations, even if it's a quick bounce or a little footwork tool. Next up is downward momentum, right? Sometimes we're gonna have to reach up or even jump up to catch the ball, as you can see here. Being able to deal with higher forces coming down into your shot and still get good energy transfer on this is big. Footwork flexibility is another one. This is two parts. The first part being just adding a bunch of different footwork options into your movement library. So many coaches talk about whether the 1-2 is better than the hop, and then the inside, outside, outside, inside. In reality, they're all situational. It depends on who the athlete is, what the situation is, how they're moving, so many other factors that your best bet is adding all of them to your toolbox and then allowing them to emerge through the game. If you're sitting there in a game thinking about, should I do a 1-2 because that's better than a hop, then you're already cooked. So get comfortable with as many nuanced footwork patterns that you can do, but then also start to prepare for awkward footworks. We're human, we make errors. There are gonna be times where you can't get the perfect footwork. And if you aren't able to shoot with a slightly rotated base, maybe a little bit more narrow or wide than you're used to, at that next level, you're not gonna be able to shoot. So again, we must prepare for this. Depth is another one here, okay? Notice on these shots, sometimes they shoot from a little bit lower. Maybe they have to reach down for the ball, or they gotta decelerate, like on this one where he really comes to a low position and has to shoot off of that. Versus other times, you gotta quickly pop off the ground. Maybe you're not shot ready in a certain situation, so you have to shoot from a higher joint angle here, like almost standing. And you got to be able to shoot from here, right? It can't always be the perfect depth on your jump, so you should practice shooting a little bit lower and shooting a little bit higher depths. Another one is shot path, right? And you know if you're a shooter that you're not always going to get the perfect pass. It just doesn't happen like that. So are you able to do two things? One, catch the ball or even pick up the ball off of the dribble outside of your frame, quickly bring it back to the center and then shoot. But then other times, are you able to take it from that outside of the frame position and go straight up from there and still make the shot with a little bit funky or curved of a shot path? Can you still get to that same release from outside of your frame? That's gonna dictate how many shots you can actually shoot that are good shots, and then whether, of course, you can make those shots. Similar to this is hand placement, right? Sometimes it's a perfect pass, but you just may catch it a bit funky, your hand's on top of the ball. Can you then adjust and get it back under? Sometimes with defense, there are gonna be things that force you to really have to get that ball back into, again, the nice hand placement position and go up. So this is similar to shot path, but really at the beginning, keying in on your hand placement. We talked about drifting a little bit earlier, 4D momentum. This one now involves rotation, rotational momentum. So again, two things, the perfect and the imperfect. Can you create perfection when you are rotating? In other words, if you're coming off a ghost screen and really turning fast, can you stop yourself and jump straight up and down? Can you eliminate that rotational momentum? Now, sometimes that will be able to happen, but many times that won't. You're gonna carry some of that rotation into your shot, right? Some of these, you see some leg kicks, you see their shoulders rotating in the air, and this is just a natural part of being a dynamic shooter, so you have to be able to shoot with some rotation in your shot. Both of these you should be working on. Second to last here is the visual component. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but there's a phenomenon called the quiet eye, which shows that the longer that you can key in on the rim or the target before you shoot it, the higher chance you have to make it. It's not rocket science, but so many players never train the visual part of shooting. And on all these, again, you can see how they quickly key in on the rim. It's not easy to flip your head around, dial in on the rim, and then calculate your shot accordingly. So we do a lot of work with players that really forces them to do this in imperfect situations. And then lastly is shooting with decisions. So much of the reason why players' workouts don't apply to the game in terms of shooting is because in a game, there's so much more going on. You have to decide whether you're gonna shoot, whether you're gonna pass, whether you're gonna drive, so it becomes imperfect and you have more cognitive load going through your mind. In a workout, most times when you catch the ball, you know you're gonna shoot it. So your brain and your body can prepare for that way earlier, so it's likely gonna be perfect. Here, in a situation like this, he catches it in a split stance, probably looking to attack, and then realizes he's open and wants to shoot. So he's able to adjust and quickly turn his attention to making the shot. But this is exactly why we do so many 1v2 shooting drills and different small-sided games, contested shooting drills, where you have to make decisions, respond to the defense, and adapt. And if you get one thing out of this video, it's that you should train yourself to become not a robotic shooter, a perfect shooter, but an adaptable shooter. One who's able to, yes, find perfection through craziness, but also deal with imperfection when they can't. If you enjoyed this, definitely make sure to check out the Ultimate Shooting Program, or if you're a coach, my coach's certification and different resources, where we go deep into the science here, deep into practically how to train these things. I think you guys will really like it. Links in the description. Appreciate you guys for tuning in.